Good afternoon, you're welcome along to World Cup Daily. It is Friday. It is a day when we look at Lionel Messi and think that he is on the brink of World Cup elimination. We're going to be chatting about that throughout the afternoon, and we're going to be crossing over to Nizhny Novgorod, where John Duggan is standing by, to look ahead to Brazil as well, who'll be on the brink themselves if they don't pick up 3 points this afternoon against Costa Rica. That's the first game this afternoon, which kicks off at 1 o'clock. We'll also be crossing over to Leon Blanche, who is at Royal Ascot, for all your betting needs throughout the afternoon. Some good tips, some good specials on offtheball.com/BoyleSport if you want to hop on there now and have a quick look. Nathan Murphy, a very good afternoon to you.
How are you?
Very well. I'm not sure am I more pumped up or am I more disappointed by the drama that ensued in Nizhny Novgorod last night.
Pumped up. How good were Croatia?
They were good.
They were great.
Was it the best performance we've seen in the World Cup so far?
John Giles thinks so.
Well, if John Giles thinks so. I'm not going to put my neck out there.
I think considering the supposed quality of Argentina,
that's
even
the
though it's
thing.
clearly not there. I just thought the way they controlled the game, it had a bit of everything. So it was a proper dirty bit of a scrap. There was a few schmozzles. They were getting in each other's faces. There was endless yellow cards. And Croatia were able to handle that. They're as tough as anyone. But they have the genius of Modric and Rakitic that just brings them to a whole other level. They're going to go far. They're going to get to semi-finals.
I wonder about Modric and Rakitic, and I wonder, is the greatness of them enhanced by the fact of what they were up against? Given the two boys in front of Mascherano, and I've said this before, like earlier on this morning, that one of them plays for Independiente, one of them plays for River Plate. They're not world-class players. Also, if you look at what Fabregas was saying last night on BBC, that Argentina set up with 5 attackers and 5 defenders, which is a dream in his opinion as a midfielder. You add all that into the mixture and it was a dream night, a perfect night for Modric and Rakitic, which I just feel that when you say supposed quality of Argentina, I think that's the key word there.
On last night, yes, but Luka Modric has been the best midfielder in Europe for 3-4 years. He has been the driving force behind Real from that position. He's the one who starts everything.
It's true.
So it was only a matter of time before they started to deliver. They have players who seem to step up at international level. So Dejan Lovren has sort of continued on from where he left off in the Champions League final. Really hasn't put a foot wrong so far in this tournament. And yeah, Argentina are a bit ramshackle, bit of a shambles. But you still have to go and beat them. You still have to go and take advantage of that. And I just thought some of the football they played in the second half was top quality. And because they're up for the scrap, because they can do the dirty stuff, if they end up playing Spain potentially along the way, like that could be the game of the tournament, and I think Croatia could do them.
That'd be in a quarter final. So that'd be sensational. Like, one last thing on Argentina, it's not all over for them.
No, I was listening to hard to believe, I was listening to another radio station, TalkSport, this morning, and their headlines were essentially Argentina are all but out of the World Cup and will be out of the World Cup if Iceland win today. And I'm like, none of these things are true.
They'll be on the brink of
If Iceland and Nigeria draw today, which is without question a strong possibility, all they need to do is win their last game and hope that Croatia
or just as long as Iceland don't win.
Exactly.
Which is a distinct possibility.
But ultimately, I don't think it matters, because even if they get through this group, they're not going to win the tournament. Lionel Messi is not going to get the grand finale. They will lose to any team of any decent quality, because it's not as if they came out afterwards, from everything we've heard from, and we can chat to John about what his sense was. It's not as if they went into that dressing room and all emerged with an attitude of, it's not over. Let's win our last game. Let's give ourselves every chance. It was, no, we're all out to get each other. Let's chase down the manager. Let's deflect.
Well, I'm very disappointed you were listening to TalkSport instead of OTBAM this morning.
No, I was flicking. I had you on YouTube, in the sitting room and in the kitchen.
When you'll have heard John Duggan's thoughts on Argentina, indeed, on OTBAM.
Well, about in Brazil in the morning.
I'm thinking Sampaoli just says, screw tactics, let's play 4-4-2, let's get Higuain and Aguero together up top, let's put Messi out at right midfielder and get Paulo Dybala in there as an advanced centre mid with Mascherano behind him, and whoever you may pick, Di Maria or somebody else on the left, and just say, screw it, that is on paper the best footballers I have in my squad. They're all on the pitch. Let's just see what happens.
You do a Gareth Southgate on it and you just have Mascherano as the one holding player and say, lads, go do what you got to do.
Despite the fact that he's 34 years old and playing in China.
It couldn't be any worse. That's the thing. Like, it may sound in some way ridiculous, but no, it literally could not be any worse than what they produced last night.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Let's go to Nizhny Novgorod. Here is our main man, John Duggan. Not yet. We're not going to go to John Duggan just yet. We are going to talk about Brazil first.
Oof.
Sorry,
getting ahead of yourself.
Yeah, premature throw to
Brazil. He never does this.
He never does this. He never does.
Flawless.
I wish I was Alan Brazil. One day maybe.
One day, Owen, you could be Alan Brazil.
It is Costa Rica against Serbia in the early game in the World Cup today. It kicks off at 1 o'clock. There is one change for Brazil. Danilo does not start for Brazil this afternoon. Costa Rica, no Joel Campbell in the Costa Rica team. Fagner is the man who comes in for Danilo at right back for Brazil. So that means Neymar does start. It's no big surprise. He announced yesterday, Cheech, that he was going to start. But what are we going to see from Neymar today? Is it going to be a different approach to how they utilise him?
Sorry, is Cheech your nickname for him, or is that how we're actually pronouncing? I thought it was Chichi.
Cheech,
you're just going Cheech.
I heard Tim Vickery call him Cheech.
I thought Tim Vickery told me it was Chichi.
Or Cheech.
Cheech. Okay, we got to find this out.
I certainly haven't heard Cheech.
Cheech sounds as if you're sort of pally.
Well, we are pally. We're best mates, even though we don't speak the same language. But you know,
Neymar's fit. He was always going to start, even though they're going to win this game, regardless of who plays.
Really?
Yeah, I think Brazil, okay, there were signs that they're not maybe the finished unit that we thought they were coming into this tournament, but they played some brilliant football for the first 20-25 minutes. And the difference between Brazil and Argentina and Germany is Brazil have the players. So Argentina, aside from Messi, just don't have the talent. They don't have a defence. Germany, do they have enough? It feels as though actually they've become a very old team, unless he makes radical changes, which I'm not quite sure he's going to do. But Brazil actually have an unbelievable amount of talent, even to come off the bench. So they've the best left back in the world, of Marcelo. If they want, they can bring in Felipe Luis. Fernandinho can come into the side as the defensive midfielder and really add something different. And they have options up front as well if they want to start Firmino. So on paper, I still think Brazil are the best 11. It's just getting it to click, and I think it will click.
Yeah, I think you're right in that in terms of the attacking options they have to bring off the bench as well. Like if Neymar does go down, it's Douglas Costa who's in there, which is an unbelievable replacement to bring off the bench. What about them at the back? Would you be concerned about the way they conceded against Switzerland, or is it kind of like a view that, you know, it was one kind of bizarre set piece where it could or couldn't have been a foul? There was certainly a strong case to say Miranda was pushed for the header for that, but ultimately you can't gauge any defence on how they hold up against Switzerland.
I think that the defence is going to be perfectly fine. It's actually a reasonably strong defence. All right, Thiago Silva, maybe his legs are starting to go a little bit, but they're well protected because they have Casemiro just in front, because they may end up bringing Fernandinho in there as well at some stage. I think there's enough around them. You're right, if that had been ruled out, and considering the way some of the VAR decisions have gone, where even yesterday the handball against Denmark, which was no way a handball, but because the referee looks back, sees a hand hitting the ball, if Brazil win that game 1-0, it's a steady start to the tournament, there's no great panic. But last weekend, maybe we're just looking for storylines, whereas now with Argentina, we actually have a storyline that we can latch onto. Brazil are going to be fine. Brazil are going to go a hell of a long way in this tournament.
I like the confidence there. It's kind of coming back full circle to the point when everybody was tipping Brazil to win the tournament. And I think it is that depth, really, that has kind of pushed them out in front of the pack. Today is a big opportunity for them to lay down a marker, though, up against Costa Rica. The other games, just to remind you today, it's Nigeria against Iceland at 4 o'clock and Serbia against Switzerland, the grit derby, I'm going to call it. It's at 7 o'clock this evening. A 0-0 draw or 1-1 draw there, probably on the cards, I dare say. But the big thing today is we're ranking our pundits, our television pundits, and Nathan Murphy has... I actually don't know what the list is going to be here, so I'm looking forward to this myself as much as you are. Nathan Murphy is ranking his top 10 pundits from the World Cup 2018 so far. Nathan, in at number 10 is...
I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, we have
Duffer.
Here.
Duffer.
So Damien Duffin at number 10.
Hard to believe, but I was in the gym this morning and I was trying to do this while in the gym and trying to think about... I'd had in my head who I wanted, but I was worried I was going to leave somebody out.
How does that happen? What are you doing? Are you on a treadmill when you're thinking?
No, I was just thinking. I was just trying to get my thoughts together, which was hard to do when you're incredibly unfit.
I've just been told by Joe in the producer's box that the takes were too hot to get to our graphics department. That the graphics department put their hand on it and they got first-degree burns. Lauro ahead of Duff is the first talking point here.
Well, so this may change as the tournament goes on, because right now the games, we've had a couple of brilliant games, but generally there's a lot of 1-0s, there's a lot of teams that people don't know a huge amount. So what do you want from your pundits? You want people who are informative and people who are entertaining. I think at this early stage, we're still very much in the entertainment side of things.
Yeah. Did you hear Lauro having a go at VAR again last night? I watched the first half on BBC, second half on RTE.
I love Lauro. And there's been a lot of support from this week. I know he gets stick. I know he's a bit grumpy and he's a bit cranky and he can be a bit too smart for his own good. But he's a great man. He's, without question, if you were to have like a list of footballers you'd like to spend time with, he has so many brilliant stories that he does manage to get out during his commentary. He probably doesn't do himself justice at times because he's so cranky. And the one thing I think viewers don't want, our listeners, is feeling that the pundit doesn't want to be there, that they're not in some way appreciative of their job, and you're getting to go to all these incredible games in Russia. Try and bloody enjoy it.
But that's never the case with Lauro, even though it might sound that way sometimes. He always wants to be there.
Oh, he always wants to be there. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. But that just often doesn't reflect. But again, Lauro gets you talking.
Yeah, he does, in fairness.
Without question, if you watch a full 90 minutes of Lauro on the Beeb, you're going to laugh 4 or 5 times at just the absurdity of something he said.
You've gone for the Beeb 7, 8 and 9. At 8 is Rio and at 7 is Alex Scott. Impressive, both of them. Are we saying that
Ferdinand is steadily improving?
Yeah. Is this because he's beside rookies quite a lot?
Possibly.
As in, he's been put in beside Cesc, put in beside Drogba.
Cesc got a bit better as the tournament went on. He's finished now, though.
Oh,
last night was his last night.
Good point. I forgot about that.
Unfortunately.
Yes, and last night was his finest performance.
Yeah, he broke it down Argentina quite well. Ferdinand there's a likability factor. When he does a little bit of analysis, he seems tactically pretty astute. Maybe there could be a bit more on the entertainment side of things, that he could just chill a little bit more and
Ferdinand
go for a little bit more of the controversial take. He's very good at giving the insights into, so it's not just an anecdote of when I was at Manchester United, more well, here's what this person did, here's why they did it, here's how I can explain what happened. I think Alex Scott is a prime example for any new pundit coming in so it's hard to be initially entertaining when you're nervous, but have your research done. Just have your research, be on top. And I think everyone who's on the list above, well, maybe with the exception of one, has their research done.
Yeah, I wonder who that exception is.
And actually, it's for any of because RT, you're trying out a lot of new names. They should just look at somebody like Alex Scott and go, all right, she's clearly read a lot about these two teams. So when you've done that level of research, you're no longer bluffing. You've actually watched the games. You actually know what you're talking about.
It's remarkable as well how well received that can be, or just how noticeable research is at every single game of the World Cup up until the quarter-final stage, really. Even Brazil. There's plenty of things that you can rattle off before their first game of the World Cup, and you're like, I didn't know that. Tell me a little bit more about Miranda there at centre half. Tell me a little bit more about the friendlies they played. Despite the fact that you think you know everything about Brazilian football, there is tons that you actually don't know because of the nature of international games.
Well, exactly, and that's why the World Cup is a learning experience. You can't sit here and
nobody knows anything.
Know everything about 32 teams, and also, it's hard to know anything because what games are relevant, what games aren't. We end up reading into 3-4 friendlies ahead of the tournament, what managers are trying out, and then they do something completely different. So you talk to guys like Tim Vickery who are very much on top of things, and actually with some of those pundits, and I'd have Richard Dunn in that as well, that it feels as though they've listened to the experts and read the people who are watching Brazil on the ground and are then able to relay that. Because remember, if you're on BBC One, and this is the key, if you're on BBC One or RT2, you're playing to a huge audience, not all of whom, in fact, the vast majority of whom just want to sit and watch the bloody game.
Yeah.
And a bit of entertainment. They're not looking for the real deep stuff. So to be able to take it into little bite-sized chunks, get the bit of information out, it's a skill in itself.
Where Dunphy comes in at number 6 on your list, where does World Cup 2018 rank in Dunphy's works of art?
It's not up there.
Okay.
Just yet.
Not yet.
But still
time.
If Dunphy's on, I'm leaving it on.
Yeah.
Just because anything can happen. Even last night he goes off on a beautiful little rant about South American football. Didn't make a huge amount of sense.
No.
Wasn't overly factually correct.
Especially because they're two centre mids literally playing the continent. He was like, Europe have come and stolen all their players.
So, but it's Dunphy. Just love the man. You know, he's given us so much. We can't turn our back on him now.
Especially in 20. You
want Dunphy on the panel for the final. If you're picking your RT dream team for the final, is Dunphy on it?
Of course he is. Of course he is.
Exactly. He's the potential spark.
Slaven Bilic at number 5. Now you're going to have to kind of talk to a lot of us here. Any fellow Virgin viewers will not be able to
whatever own
ITV.
It's a bit too much info.
We don't have ITV. Virgin Entertainment does not have ITV on it. So I haven't seen much of Slaven Bilic. I saw the moment when he was like, I don't care. And everybody was like, this is the most hilarious piece of football punditry you're ever going to see. And it wasn't that funny.
I just, again, he's entertaining. There's more insight than you get from Roy at times. The ITV panel is set up poorly for all of them because they have too many pundits. So they have 4 pundits and they have excess of ads. So you're working on sound bites. If they were to bring it down to just Bilic, Keane and Neville, I think you'd have a far better panel.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Even the strange thing about that panel is Ian Wright has progressed massively on the BBC over the last few years and become a really good pundit and very good tactically and can give good insight on match of the day and really seems on top of it. Yeah. On ITV, it's this relaxed, jokey...
He's like that on Match of the Day as well.
No. He's improved massively on Match of the Day.
In the
last 2-3 years.
I want to agree with you.
But here, don't agree with me.
I'm not sure I can. I'm not...
No,
I think he
Wright
gets outplayed by Danny Murphy week in, week out whenever they're on together. I think...
Oof.
Like, yeah, well, it's just my honest opinion.
Have I left anyone out? Because, as I said...
Well, Keane and Brady are 2 people that I'm picking here. Let's just go quickly through the top 4. So 4 is Richard Dunn, who you've already mentioned. 3, Gary Neville, who you've touched on as well. Number 2 is Brian Kerr. Like, we love Brian Kerr. But at number 1, it's Kev or Keith. Like, do you mean Kev or Keith? Do you mean Keith and Kev?
Well,
Kev
if you got
Keith?
the best of both of them together, you'd have a really good pundit.
What are their weaknesses?
What are Kevin Kilban's weaknesses in Russia is a great question.
What's his
I just put them there to make sure I didn't get in any trouble with them. I didn't want getting a call from one over the other.
This is the most diplomatic list ever. Like, maybe those takes were too cold for our graphic designer to actually.
But that's exactly what it is. Like, this is bullshit. So why would I bother?
Anything else to add to that?
No. What have you to add?
Well, I've already given my 2 cents that you chickened out of giving us an actual number 1.
I did. Are you saying Kev and Keith don't deserve to be number 1?
Well, one person deserves to be number 1.
Kilban has been very good in the BBC.
He has been actually, yeah.
He's really stepped... Again, he's done his research. And sometimes he's doing teams that, again, it's difficult. He's been shown off on the old WhatsApp groups with his in-depth knowledge of Panama.
Oh, has he?
I like Steve Wilson's a very good commentator.
Yeah, he
on
is
the BBC.
good.
The mix of Kilban and Wilson is it's a nice way to spend an afternoon.
Wilson got Spain versus Portugal, and obviously it helped that the game was amazing, but that was the moment when I realised, because you only get to a match of the day really, then I realised Stephen Wilson is an excellent commentator. Of course, it was like the beauty of Ronaldo and stuff that night. Would you say that's an easy game to commentate on? Or does it make it harder when loads of crazy stuff is happening?
It's probably easy until the final moments, because when Ronaldo's standing over a free kick, you want to capture it.
Yeah.
And the BBC isn't one of the first organisations you go to when you're making your montages of commentary, because they don't lose it. They don't go absolutely ape. And I think he did. I'm trying to remember what exactly the commentary, because Danny Murphy was saying the whole way through,
he's not going to score.
He's not going to get it over the wall. He's not going to get it over the wall.
Yeah.
Steve Wilson's... I think he's number 1 on the commentator list now.
We'll do a commentators list next time Nathan Murphy is on World Cup Day.
Well, I'll put myself number 1, but...
Obviously, I mean, it's yourself or Dave, just to be diplomatic again, isn't it? You know, people can share the number 1 place at this point. It's all PC. PC got mad is what I call your power rankings, Nathan. Add off the ball if you want to give in your 2 cents to the punditry ranks over the course of the World Cup 2018. Let's go to Russia. Let's check in with John Duggan. Hello, Nizhny Novgorod. Hello, John Duggan. And hello, whatever landscape is going to be behind you.
Owen and Nathan, good afternoon.
Wow. That is Vladimir Lenin.
It is. Well done, Owen. You did history.
That is, that's a remarkable statue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm burning to a crisp at the moment with Lenin behind me in Lenin Square in Nizhny Novgorod. Little did I think a year ago, guys, I'd be doing this. I have to say, life is a strange journey.
It certainly is. What's your impression being of Nizhny Novgorod as the days gone by? Have the Argentinian and Croat footprints started to disperse away from the city?
They have, lads. Friendly people. I got a taxi down from the steps I was on this morning doing the AM show, and the taxi driver, you know, he was doing his best, and I was doing my best just to try and communicate, because obviously he doesn't speak a word of English, I don't speak a word of Russian. And he had a Sweden jersey on, and a Swedish cap because they were here the other day, and he was really embracing it. And he just went Irish whiskey, Irish whiskey. You're just trying to communicate through footballers, and I just
Russian vodka,
Zuba.
Russian vodka.
Yeah, which is exactly what I said. The next thing I said, and I just said Zuba. I said Golovin, and you go, yeah, man. So just lovely and friendly, and just great. Great to see people, the locals, embracing it because it's such a curious thing for them. Because Nizhny Novgorod is just a pretty, I would call Russia functional, if not sensual. It's but it's very modern. I was in Brazil for the Olympic Games, and Russia's far more advanced and modern than Brazil is. And what Pundit said before the tournament, that the organisers be the winners, is ringing true so far. Excellently organised World Cup so far.
I just think there's a definite mini-series in John in Russian taxis as you both just shout random footballers' names at each other and see if you end up in the right destination.
I said Roy Keane, and he didn't know what I was talking about. He just kept on going, you English, and I said, no, Ireland. And then he thought I was Icelandic, and eventually we got to Ireland. So that was this morning.
I would probably claim Icelandic status at this point, to be quite honest. Let's talk about St. Petersburg. It's Brazil against Costa Rica. It kicks off in 40 minutes' time, John. The process of Neymar finding his way into the tournament, are we going to see that in full flow today? Are we going to see peak Neymar?
Hopefully. A lot of drama and circus around it, isn't there? I mean, I remember in 2002, Brazil beat Costa Rica 5-2, and that ignited their tournament. And Neymar limped out of training, injury to his ankle. I wonder, are they making a lot of this to put it in the referees' minds that he was given 10 fouls, and they keep on repeating it against Switzerland, and of course he broke his foot, the same foot that he has the ankle injury on, and he's just come back. Chichi, the coach, denying that. He had to tell him to stop being so selfish because he's playing quite deep in the match. So hopefully Brazil, you'd like to think they could beat Costa Rica without Neymar, but hopefully they'll catch fire today and score a few goals. I think they will. I think he's picked the same team, apart from the right back. I think Fagner's in for the injured Danilo. So Williams starts again, which is interesting. I didn't think he'd start the first match. He does start again. And let's see if they can breach the Costa Rican defence, which they should be able to, given the talent they have in the team.
Have we ever seen a player in world football with the ego of Neymar? Even Ronaldo at his peak and at his pomp, you always sensed he knew he couldn't achieve his personal greatness without the team going and doing things as well. And all right, he never overly sacrificed himself, but he delivered. Whereas actually for Neymar, you sense he'd go home from this tournament happy if he finished up as the top scorer and the player of the tournament and Brazil lost in the final.
Yeah, it's getting that way. I think Diego Maradona's ego was seismic. It was Mercury. It was like a planet. But the overarching goal of winning the World Cup was more important than his own issues. I remember when Diego Maradona, when other players would score, he would always kind of look to himself, or clasp his hands and look at the sky. So Diego Maradona was pretty out there in terms of ego, but he was able to back it up with that utter iron will, and especially in 1990 when he wasn't very fit coming into the tournament, and he really worked hard on his fitness. Now that might have been self-inflicted in the years intervening, 86 and 90, but it's disappointing to see. That's why he's probably rotating the captaincy. I think it's the Thiago Silva's today is the captain. So it's disappointing to see, and there are enough talented players within the Brazilian team, aside from Neymar, to hopefully say if Neymar was not playing today, they should be able to beat Costa Rica, who would think of only, I don't think Joe Campbell's playing. I think they've only scored one goal from their last 31 shots and goal of the World Cup.
Yeah, it's a worry for them in that regard. Just to remind people of what the Brazil team is, it's Alisson in goal, it's Fagner and Marcelo, your fullbacks, Thiago Silva and Miranda at centre-half, Casemiro and Paulinho sitting in front of Thiago Silva and Miranda. You've got Willian on the right wing, Neymar on the left wing, and then Philippe Coutinho just sitting in behind Gabriel Jesus. We were chatting there at the top of the show, John, just about the strength of this Brazilian bench, and it really is something else when you look at it. I mean, when you look at the likes of Firmino, who has the potential to come on here, and you talk about the likes of Douglas Costa as well. Like on Firmino, is there a sense that it's kind of like Mo Salah, but on a less kind of worrying level, that you get the best out of Roberto Firmino playing in a Jurgen Klopp system, playing with the specific talents of Salah and Mane, whereas here with Brazil, it's a very different setup, it's a different position quite often? Yes, I think that from what I've read, he's not as well regarded in Brazil as he is with Liverpool. And I think what's the phrase that he's a 10 that's been turned into a 9.
He's a 9.5.
Yeah, can he be? Yeah, like my shoe size. Can he be? And that's actually true. Can he be a 10? Can he be a 10? And probably not in the Brazilian setup. So, is he a ready replacement for Gabriel Jesus? I don't know. But he has had a good season, and I would have thought that when Coutinho left Liverpool, that would have unsettled him. It didn't seem to. But they've got an embarrassment to riches. I'm surprised Marquinhos isn't playing in ways. But obviously he could have fitted on the right side as well. He's played at right back. So I think a lot depends on their holding midfielders. I mean, Paulinho's obviously had a second lease of life in his career. He's rediscovered some of his form after flopping at Tottenham. But yeah, they weren't exactly magisterial and dominant in midfield the other night. So I'm just interested to see against weaker opposition if they can get into their groove, unlike other countries in the tournament like Argentina who've flopped, and France who've been workmanlike.
It'll be interesting to see what Chichi's reaction is. If, say, they win today 2-0, but it's not a convincing performance, is he ready to make changes? Is he willing to make changes and to look at maybe somebody like Paulinho and bring in Fernandinho instead? Now, that's a defensive change, though Fernandinho, after a season at Manchester City where he's getting involved in link-up play all the time, you would think against the better teams, it's a stronger midfield of Casemiro and Fernandinho, albeit not as creative. And with Gabriel Jesus, who does work hard, because that's why Pep Guardiola preferred him, it seemed at times, to Sergio Aguero, is that while Aguero is an out-and-out number 9, isn't going to track back, Jesus will get around the place, maybe not quite as solid and can't put himself about quite as much as Roberto Firmino, but if he doesn't deliver, does he go and is he willing to drop one of that front three? And is there pressure from elsewhere to keep that front three?
It's a good point, I guess. Is every decision that has to be made here with regards to kind of compensating for Neymar, John? Like, do you literally have to think Neymar can't do this thing, which, as Nathan says quite often, is tracking back. He's not going to track back for you. Therefore, the attributes that everybody else that kind of makes up for the lack of tracking back or the lack of effort that some people might tar, a lot of people might tar Neymar with that brush. Is that essentially what you're picking your team on? What, making up for Neymar, making up for Neymar's deficiencies? That seems like a pretty odd way to select a team.
But it is also, could you also say the opposite, that you're accommodating Neymar's greatness? And that if he is a little bit less selfish and if he's a little bit more forward in his play, then you're actually accommodating his greatness. He's only lost, I think, once ever in a competitive game for Brazil. And I think Fernandinho, I don't know how scarred he is from that 7-1 when he was hauled off. Now, he has improved recently in terms of his form, definitely improved. He had a good season. But yeah, I mean, I would agree with you that they do need that kind of, those holding players to... It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one to give that platform for success. But I still think they've enough. I mean, I think the results would show that in the qualifying, they're playing like Uruguay, Argentina, Colombia. They were absolutely dominant, and I think they should have enough as the tournament progresses to be able to have the balance between your free spirits of your Neymars and your defensive players, and also very talented players like Gabriel Jesus, Willian. I don't think he'd be afraid to make changes. I think his stock is very high, Chichi. But it's just whether they get a little bit too exposed defensively as the tournament goes on against better opposition. So, what you want from a Brazil point of view, I mean, like if Germany can get their act together, and there's a lot of controversy and trouble in the German camp at the moment, and whether they're Bates and Ozil and Gundogan, and a lot of criticism from other former teammates, and not former teammates, sorry, former stars. But if Brazil and Germany are in the last 16, you can often see teams being brilliant early on and then getting done. And if Germany have recovered, and if they don't finish top of their group, that's when, hopefully, from a Brazilian point of view, they've ironed out, as you say, any kind of quirks or deficiencies they might have. And hopefully today, from their perspective, will give them a lot of certainty over where they stand.
Yeah, the other game in that group is at 7 o'clock this evening. It's Serbia against Switzerland, John, and it's not the most anticipated game. It's can we even call it intriguing, or is it just going to be a marvel of two very, very physical sides, and two sides who are excellent in their defensive structure?
Well, I don't know what the BoyleSport's odds are on a goal of stroke, but we haven't had one yet. So I'm expecting, like, if you back blind Iceland, Nigeria, because I can only expect Iceland to be quite defensive in that game, or Serbia, Switzerland to be goalless draw. I think you're making a profit whatever way you do. There's generally goalless draws about 6-7 to 1.
It was 80 to 1 for there to be no goalless draw through the entire tournament.
There has to be at some stage, surely there has to be in the 90 minutes, especially when teams get more cautious in the knockout stages. But yeah, it's an interesting stat. I don't know if this is the longest we've ever gone without a goalless draw.
It's certainly up there. I think we levelled 1954's record 2 nights ago. I'm not sure if we surpassed 1954 in the last 24 hours or not, but we're certainly up there, John. Yeah, that's for sure. The goalless draw, the bet that we're going to have as our charity bet with Leon from BoyleSport pretty soon is a draw and under 2.5 goals in Serbia versus Switzerland comes in at 11 to 5.
Yeah, so this guy Milinkovic-Savic is an interesting player. He could add a bit of bite to Serbia. I'm sure, Nathan, you were covering the matches for Off the Ball, the Ireland games, but
he wasn't involved. He wasn't involved in those games. Of course, was the most interesting part.
Yeah, he's only played, I think, his 5th game last weekend. He's an interesting player, but of course they changed their coach. I thought they were ordinary against Ireland until they scored just after half time in that match, and then Ireland were pumping long balls up and forget about it after that. But we scored twice against them. Did they lose to Austria as well late in qualifying?
Yeah, they pretty dramatic because they conceded quite a few goals during qualifying as well, Serbia. Yeah, so
Nizhny Novgorod. We obviously have Tadic as well, who plays for Southampton. And they were functional. Kolarov got the winner against Costa Rica. But once again, he had the captaincy. He was taken off Ivanovic. We obviously had issues with Croatians, but they didn't seem to bother them on the pitch. But I think they're a much better team. And Switzerland have just, I don't know what you guys think, but I think they're just greater than the sum of their parts. 6th in the world, which is just consistent. Got to the last 16 the last time. Difficult to beat. Have gone through World Cup before without even losing a match. Obviously Chachiri and Xhaka are 2 very important players that we know. Xhaka, a very good passer of the ball. And Seferovic has come in for a lot of criticism, although he did score in a friendly before the tournament started. So, solid unit. Not going to set it alight. I think we were all expecting them to lose to Germany in the last 16. But I think the winner of this will be in the last 16. And I think that's why I think it's just going to be a dogged stalemate. It'll probably be just a goalless draw or 1-1 draw. I mean, I don't know if you guys have a different view.
I think Serbia might do them.
Yeah.
They will. Tadic seems to save his best stuff for international football. Likewise, Mitrovic and Milinkovic-Savic is possibly one of the next big stars of European football. There's a lot of speculation that Manchester United may go in from over the course of the summer. And ultimately, they fired their last manager because of him. It was very strange. I remember when we were in Sarajevo right at the start of the campaign that Serbia have had this unbelievable success at underage level over the last 3-4 years, winning the World Under-20, winning the European Under-20. And so few of those players were being given opportunities to come through. In fact, I think with the exception of the goalkeeper in the game, the 2-2 in Sarajevo, I don't think any of that under-20 squad were involved that time. For whatever reason, he didn't think they were good enough, didn't want to bring them through. But because he didn't get on with Milinkovic-Savic, it seems that was the number one reason they got rid of Muslin and brought in the new coach. So he's an imposing figure. He stands out straight away when you're watching Serbia. And who knows, maybe this is the moment where he announces himself to the world. Who knows indeed. John, listen, enjoy the rest of Nizhny Novgorod. Pass on our best wishes to Vladimir Lenin there and enjoy England against Panama on Sunday. We'll chat to you on Monday. Lads, I'll be back in Moscow by then. Take care. Nice one. Chat to you then. John Duggan there on the line from Nizhny Novgorod. We are going to go to Royal Ascot in just a moment. That's really on. Can I make a change to my list? Forgot about somebody. I knew I was going to forget about somebody. John Duggan. No, my list of pundits. Former player. I'm only going by former players. Okay. I'm going to get rid of Bilic. I'm going to bring in Richie Sadler. So everybody goes down one? No, I'm just going to get rid of Bilic completely. So Bilic goes from number 6 to nowhere. That's maybe I'll move them all down one and Duffer has to drop out. I can't believe I forgot about Sadler. Sadler's great. Yeah, he's excellent. And he's got the mix. He's always informed. And he's getting more and more confident. Does he go in straight in at number 5, is it, or number 6? Gotta have him up there, yeah. Right, okay. So it's him versus Dunn tussling for to break into the top 3 or 4. It's an interesting development there in the power rankings. Are you a fan of Richard Dunn? I like Richard Dunn, yeah. I think I'm not like it's kind of like Damien Duff when he's sitting in the RT panel. It's kind of like
there could be a little bit more to come from these guys, and they've got to feel their way into the tournament, kind of like Neymar has to do to a certain extent. That's how I'm going to compare. It's just kind of like
their egos are holding them back. You're saying Richard Dunn's ego is holding him back?
Not at all, really. It's tough when you're in there with a seasoned veteran like Eamon Dunphy to try and say something that is going to be as impactful as he might say without going about it in the way that Eamon Dunphy might, if that makes sense.
I don't think Dunn gives a damn, which is one of his best qualities. He's ultra chilled out, and when he retired, I don't think anyone really expected he would move into punditry. He's been on with us quite a few times, and every time you go, actually, really, really good. He's watching the game. He's probably far enough removed, living in France, that he's lost the connection, so he's not worried about who he insults. But defensively, he fully understands it. It wasn't as if he was just a defender working on instinct. He can go in depth, which we've already seen. He hasn't been on too many times, but he's putting pressure. If he wanted it, he could be a contender. Yeah,
okay. Well, we're gonna have to update these now, because you've got us all kind of thinking about the next movement. And
well, Kilbane and Andrews are number one for the entire tournament. I just don't like awkward conversations or any sort of confrontation.
Right. Okay.
I don't want Kev getting upset. You know the way these things work. He meets somebody in Moscow and somebody said this about you.
Didn't you insult the desserts at the Emirates Stadium one time and got into a lot of awkward confrontations?
Well, that was the Arsenal fans.
So I think you're a man of confrontation. I think you're actually trying to be confrontational by putting them on a level pairing. I think.
Who would you have then first, Kilbane or Andrews?
I'm merely just teeing you up for your opinion. Nobody gives a damn about my opinions. We do care about Leon Blanche's opinions, though, because he could win you a lot of money. He's with BoyleSport. He'll be up right after this. Here is Joe Malloy chatting England with Keith Andrews.
I secretly, and always have, had a real soft spot for England, because generally, especially growing up, there were 1, 2, 3 of my favourite players in the England team, so I like them a lot more than other teams. That's the truth.
Yeah, I think, who was that again? He's hit the nail on the head, though, secretly.
Des Walsh.
No one really wants to admit it.
I wasn't cheering for them down the pub.
Yeah, and no one's going to be sticking a Euro 96 fest on, are they?
No, but when you meet anyone in England who played last night and they lose, you're like, it was great, wasn't it? Yeah, it was great.
I agree, but look, we watch them week in, week out.
Yeah.
What I would like them to probably go quite far. I don't know whether I could deal with them winning it.
No, I couldn't deal with the circus around it. It wouldn't bug me that much if Jordan Henderson. Well, it wouldn't bug me if most of their players won a medal. I feel like, they're decent fellas.
Third place.
No, I'm just going to say I couldn't deal with Sky Sports. I couldn't deal with.
Whoa, Joe, be
all
very
that
careful
stuff
here, will you? You just.
What?
Got a certain loyalty to Sky, so you've got to be careful here, pal.
Could you imagine Sky Sports News for, I'd say, the next 18 months?
Just don't watch it.
That's a hell of a loyalty you have.
Well, it says you don't watch it. I'm watching it.
Can we get that as like a Sky Sports ad where Keith Andrews goes, just don't watch it. All the games, just don't watch it.
Yeah, think of all the pundits that are missing out on your list because Sky Sports don't have any rights to World Cup.
I know. Well, I think that bit of analysis may push Keith up because he's slating his own employer. Kev would never do that to the Beeb.
So Kev in at number 2, Keith Andrews
willing to stab Sky in the back. Which is the ultimate. That's the ultimate, honestly. These people who pay him a fortune, a 6-figure sum at least, every year, possibly 7 figures. He's doing 84 league games every season. He's willing to say, no, just don't watch it.
Yeah.
That's bravery right there.
Being a traitor is rule number 1 of being a good pundit.
Yeah.
So that's what we've learned today from the Power Rankings. Let's go to Royal Ascot. Leon Blanche, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Owen. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks. It's a good old day of World Cup fixtures coming up yet again. We'll start with the one at 1 o'clock. It's 20 minutes to kick off between Brazil and Costa Rica. What were you looking at this? I presume the market is favouring one team very, very heavily here.
Yeah, look, it certainly is. It's no surprise to see the Brazil as short as 2-9 in terms of defeating Costa Rica. I'm a little bit disappointed that I haven't seen any changes to the Brazilian team that were a bit lacklustre in their opening game against Switzerland. I thought Firmino made a huge impression off the bench, and I'm sure Douglas Costa and the likes will be hoping that they can see some game time in this World Cup. But Brazil against Costa Rica, they should win. They're 2-9 to do so. You can get 16-1 about Costa Rica pulling off one of the biggest upsets in World Cup history, and the draw is as big as 5-1. Neymar came into this tournament. I thought he'd be fresh. I thought he'd be hungry. I thought he was going to score loads of goals. Maybe today he'll click into gear. No surprise to see him as favourite to open the scoring at 5-2. Gabriel Jesus, who retains his place, he's 3-1. And I think Philippe Coutinho, who of course scored a wonder goal against Switzerland, he's available at 9-2. But I think looking at the last couple of games, the lesser nations are obviously setting themselves up not to concede many goals, as we saw with Spain and Portugal just getting over the line in their last games by the single goal. And I think Costa Rica will try and frustrate the Brazilians. I think Brazil should be able to get more than one goal against Costa Rica. But if you were looking for a correct score, I'd maybe look at something like 2 or 3-0.
Okay, and also the other thing that's sticking out to me here, if you go on to offtheball.com/BoyleSports, is an enhanced offer of Neymar to score in Brazil to win at 2-1, Leon.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a 4 to 5 chance or a 5 to 6 chance normally, but we're pushing it out to 2-1. And I think most people who follow Brazil will see that Neymar, he's involved in absolutely everything that they do. And I think they'll be trying their utmost to try and get him on the score sheet to build up his confidence for the latter stages of this tournament. So 2-1, offtheball.com/BoyleSports.
Massive implications for Argentina in the 4 o'clock game this afternoon is Nigeria versus Iceland in Group D. We were talking yesterday, I think, was it you, Nathan, who potentially suggested that Argentina might not get out of the group, and we got odds on that. That's looking like a pretty sweet bet right now, Leon, but what are we looking at for Nigeria against Iceland?
Yeah, look, it is. I think, anyone who availed of the 11-4 in Argentina not to qualify will be sitting quite pretty at the moment. Nigeria and Iceland, very hard to split these two sides in terms of the betting. It's 19-10 Nigeria, 17-10 Iceland, and it's 2-1 the draw. I was impressed with Iceland and how they set up against Argentina and how they were able to frustrate the Argentinians. And I feel Iceland will be looking at this game against Nigeria as a huge chance to get 3 points. And I fancy Iceland. I think they're solid at the back. I think both teams will actually score. But I do fancy Iceland just to nick this one, maybe 2-1, and give themselves an almighty chance of obviously getting through to the knockout stages, the last 16 of the World Cup. It's look, I mean, I think if you're looking at even someone who could score, maybe the first goal, it's in around about the 5 or 6-1. But I think Sigurdsson, especially the way he takes the free kicks, I think he might just be able to score. If you don't want to fancy him to score first, I think he's a 13-2 chance at any time. I think Sigurdsson might just be the man that can deliver a much vital victory for his country against Nigeria today.
And then another vital game at 7 o'clock in Group E. It's Serbia against Switzerland. A win for Serbia would essentially send them through to the next round, while a win for Switzerland would really mix things up in that group after their draw with Brazil last Sunday. I'm going for my charity bet on this game, Leon. I'm going for a draw and under 2.5 goals in this match, which is 11-5. What do you reckon of my chances there?
Yeah, look, I think it'll be tight, won't it? I mean, you saw Serbia, they only won 1-0. You saw Switzerland, they drew 1-1. Obviously, a huge point for them. I mean, they would have snapped your hand off to get a point against Brazil. And the betting here is even closer than the previous game we just discussed. I mean, Serbia are 9-5. Switzerland 19-10, and the draw here is also 19-10. So it's almost like the three possibilities are nearly the exact same price. I mean, Serbia, if you double 9-5, you get 18-10. So it's very, very close. I'm looking at something here, and Kolarov, who of course scored a wonderful goal to give his side victory in their opening game. He's an 8-1 chance just to score at any time, and 20-1 to score the first goal in the game. But I'm going to go with the 8-1 Kolarov to score at any time. I don't think your bet is too bad at all. I don't think it's going to be a goal fest. No. And this could end up a stalemate. It really could. So it's a very, very close game for us to try and price up. And I think that's going to be replicated once they get on the field later on this evening.
Yeah, and one final thing before we let you go, Leon. Can people still avail of the new customer offer on England-Panama?
Absolutely. And they'd be crazy not to avail of it. 33-1 for new customers for England to beat Panama. It doesn't get much easier than that. Free money, offtheball.com/BoyleSports.
Leon Blanche, you're a gent. Thanks a million. We'll chat to you next week.
All the best, lads.
England-Panama, offtheball.com/BoyleSports. 33-1 odds for new customers. It's an exclusive for new customers on the BoyleSports website. at this point in the tournament, you can kind of get a look at the different sorts of groups and the different sorts of paths that teams might be plotting towards at the semi-finals, and it's starting to become a little bit clearer at this point. Like, I'm not sure if we're looking at it in the context of France potentially having a very, very easy path towards the semi-final now. That's one of the things that stuck out to me. If we're assuming that Iceland are going to finish second in that Argentina group, and if we assume that Russia might miraculously get a win in the last 16 against, say, Portugal, which could happen, then France might only have to beat Iceland and Portugal to get themselves to a World Cup semi-final. I know it's a convoluted series of ifs, but
France-Portugal is a appropriate World Cup quarter-final.
Well, I think Russia might actually make it to that quarter-final.
Oof. Well, I hope not. France-Portugal will be a repeat of the Euro 2016 final, where Portugal, you may remember, Owen, actually beat France.
Well, that's a good point.
But it does look on paper. It is interesting. You spend so long looking at your wall charts and thinking, well, this is definitely going to happen. This is all it takes is actually one or two teams to miss out completely or finish second, and it changes the dynamic.
We can actually put up the potential last 16s on screen now. They're not. We're not going to put them on screen. Sorry, my graphic was too hot to put up on the screen. Once again, much like your punditry power rankings there earlier on.
What are you thinking? Who are a week and a bit in? Who are your 4 semi-finalists?
So I'm backing Russia to cause an upset in this last 16. I say that through gritted teeth. I think Russia are getting to a quarter-final, and I think it's going to be them against France, and I think France will win that. So France is one semi-finalist. I think the next semi-final the next quarter-final is going to be Spain against Croatia, which I think Spain will win. So you'll have Spain against France as one semi-final. The other semi-final then is going to be Brazil against, when you're looking at it now, and you're looking like England. It could be England. Like so just to explain the bottom half of the draw here, if we're assuming that Germany are now going to finish second in their group to Mexico, it means that the side of the quarterfinals draw that England would be on would mean playing Senegal first, if Senegal finish top of Group H. Then they would play the winner of Mexico against Serbia in a quarterfinal. And then it's straight into a semi-final against whatever, Brazil or Germany. It's looking very rosy for them in terms of that Germany result last week.
Yeah, and I was impressed by England. I liked a lot of what they were doing in that game against Tunisia. I just think they could easily get done by Senegal. It's the type of thing that, like, Senegal will have the legs and they'll run at them and they'll annoy them. And Gareth Southgate still doesn't seem fully sure of what his best team is. If they were to, are you presuming they beat Belgium or they lose to Belgium?
They lose to Belgium. I've got Colombia second in Group H. And it would mean that you've got a quarter-final line, which would be Brazil versus Germany and Belgium versus Colombia, and the winners of those two matches go up against each other, which is one hell of a quarter of the draw.
Yeah. The one thing with England as to how far they're going to go is, if they lose to Belgium, all bets are off. If they lose 2 or 3-0 to Belgium, what's the reaction going to be like? There's going to be outrage. He's going to have to make 6 changes to the team.
But this is a permanently happy squad, Nathan. They're also happy. They're all, like happy-go-lucky players. Gareth Southgate. There's no pressure. They've never even heard of 1966. They don't care. They borderline don't care what happens. That's how happy they are.
My 4 semi-finalists are Croatia, Brazil, France, Belgium.
So you think England are going to top that group?
I'm just throwing it out there, Owen. I don't have, because you screwed up on the graphic, I don't know what needs to happen.
Well, we could have done a little bit of research. Brazil, Belgium is likely to be a quarter-final. It could, it's likely to happen if Belgium beat, if they both top their groups.
Spain, Croatia will be a great game.
Yeah, that's probably going to happen.
Absolutely brilliant game.
I would be very surprised if Spain, Croatia doesn't happen. The only thing that could kind of change that is if Spain don't have a better result against Morocco than Portugal have against Iran. So again, it's all ifs. But this could happen. It all comes down to what could happen over the next couple of days.
So what you're essentially saying is we're just talking complete nonsense while people could be preparing for the hurling show and stuff that they've actually researched for.
Well, you were doing. Look, there we go. There's my graphic on screen. As you can see.
Oh, wow. They spent a lot of time on that, didn't they? Say the lads at the BBC are a bit worried now.
It was too hot to turn into a graphic once again, Nathan. Just to reiterate, as you can see there, Belgium and Brazil on the same side of the quarter-final draw. That's what I was trying to explain.
Okay, if Belgium win their group.
And if Brazil win their group. but both of those things are likely to happen.
Okay. Some tasty games there.
Any final thoughts on what's been an exceptional conclusion to this?
Do better next week.
Well, you know, we will update your punditry power rankings next week, which will be the highlight of all of our lives.
I'm only doing it again if I get a proper graphic and they have little bobbly heads.
There was like a fire emoji on your kind of text there earlier. I'm not sure if you saw that. So I think that constitutes a graphic. Once you put an emoji on it, it becomes a graphic.
What game are you looking forward to this weekend? Are you out? Are you doing what young people do and missing matches because you're at a festival?
No, of course
not. You want to see Rita Ora or something like that?
I'm going to Body and Soul. Body and Soul isn't for... You're not going to Body and Soul, are you?
No.
No, I was just wondering.
I might go to Billy Joel. That's where I am in my life right now.
Billy Joel.
Billy Joel.
It's Billy Joel.
Let's leave it at that.
I don't know what the Irish obsession is with calling Billy Joel, but anyway, enjoy Billy Joel. And I'll enjoy the football. I'll actually be doing some work and sitting in and kind of working on these graphics for next week. Best of luck to all the pundits out there as well. Over the course of the weekend, you've got to impress this guy to make your way into the top 5 for next week. Nathan will be updating them at some point. When are you on the show again?
I have no idea.
Neither do I.
Probably never.
Probably never. Thank you very much for your company. Thank you very much for your company. Enjoy the weekend's football. The hurling show is up next. Off the Ball is back on the radio on News Talk from 7 o'clock this evening. And we're back on OTB AM from 7:45 on Monday morning. We'll chat to you then. Good luck for now.